The year was 2087 when humanity first encountered the Vaari, an alien race whose presence sent shockwaves through Earth. Their ships appeared without warning, massive behemoths that eclipsed the sun as they descended through the atmosphere, their sleek, black hulls shimmering like obsidian. The people of Earth watched in awe and fear as these giants of space parked themselves in orbit above every major city. From New York to Beijing, from Moscow to Rio de Janeiro, the Vaari did not come in peace. Their leader, Lord Tsar, spoke through every global communication channel. His voice, deep and resonant, sent a chill down the spine of every human who heard it. "We are the Vaari, conquerors of worlds. Your planet is now under our protection. You will bow to us, or we will annihilate you." The message was clear: submission or destruction. Humanity, though staggered by the sudden appearance of these extraterrestrial invaders, did not fall into despair. Leaders from every corner of the globe convened in secret, knowing that Earth's survival depended on unity. Military strategists, scientists, and engineers worked tirelessly, pooling the knowledge of decades of warfare and technology to find a solution. They realized that the Vaari had underestimated human ingenuity, and perhaps, in their arrogance, had overlooked one of the most fundamental aspects of warfare. Earth's greatest weapon wasn't in the stars or in futuristic technologies. It was something far older. The Vaari arrived with a fleet that seemed invincible. Their ships could cloak themselves from radar. Their weapons could vaporize entire battalions in seconds, and their soldiers, clad in exoskeletons that adapted to any environment, were virtually impervious to conventional weaponry. Lord Tsar's fleet was the envy of the galaxy. The Vaari had mastered advanced energy manipulation, and their ground forces were equipped with personal force fields, making them impervious to almost anything Earth's military could throw at them. When the Vaari invaded, they used their superior firepower to obliterate Earth's military defenses. The world's greatest navies and air forces were no match for the Vaari's fleet. Fighter jets turned to smoke in the blink of an eye, and missile defenses were rendered useless by the aliens' electromagnetic pulses. Entire cities were razed in a matter of hours. The aliens made a simple demand: humanity would surrender its resources, mineral wealth, food, water, and would bow to the rule of the Vaari. In return, they would be spared. Earth's leaders gathered in desperation. "Our technology is far behind theirs," General Caleb Ross, head of the United Earth Defense, remarked grimly. "They laugh at our weapons. They see us as ants, ready to be crushed beneath their boot." President Marie Albright was resolute. "We cannot surrender. We will not bow. There must be a way." And there was a way, something the Vaari had dismissed as obsolete: tanks. Tanks, considered relics of Earth's past wars, were dismissed by the Vaari as primitive. They had seen the massive machines of war from humanity's history books, but they had never bothered to consider them a real threat. The Vaari had never fought a war with such machines. How could they have? Their technology was light years ahead. But humanity, while vastly outgunned, had something the Vaari did not: resolve. It wasn't the tanks alone that would turn the tide. It was the soldiers who manned them, and the centuries of experience that came with Earth's history of war. The humans had developed some of the most advanced tanks on the planet, massive machines of death and destruction, built to withstand even the harshest of conditions. These armored behemoths, though old by modern standards, still held one crucial advantage: their raw, brute force. When Earth's military leaders put out the call for volunteers to crew these tanks, soldiers from every country answered. They knew they were fighting for the survival of their species. They weren't just fighting for territory or power. They were fighting for their very existence. Among them was Captain Olivia Harris, a battle-hardened veteran who had spent years commanding the best armored divisions the United States had to offer. She had seen firsthand the devastation the Vaari could bring. But she also knew that these aliens, for all their might, had underestimated the strength of the human spirit. The first major clash took place in the ruins of Paris. The Vaari had landed their forces in the heart of Europe, intent on crushing any remaining pockets of resistance. Their soldiers, dressed in black exoskeletons that shimmered with energy fields, marched through the streets, scattering human forces like leaves in the wind. The humans had no chance, at least, that's what the Kari thought. Captain Harris and her tank division were positioned just outside the city, waiting. The humans had devised a plan, a risky one, but one that could take the Kari by surprise. The tanks would engage the aliens at close range, using their firepower to overwhelm the Kari's seemingly invincible force fields. As the Kari soldiers advanced through the streets, confident in their superiority, the first tank fired. The cannon boomed like thunder, the shell crashing into one of the Kari warriors. The alien's personal shield flickered and failed as the impact sent the soldier flying backward, dead before he hit the ground. The Kari commander, Zeroff, looked on in disbelief. "This is impossible," he muttered. "How could this primitive weapon harm us?" But the humans pressed on. The tanks rolled through the streets, firing with brutal precision, their shells tearing through the alien armor with explosive force. The Kari tried to retaliate, but their energy weapons, while powerful, couldn't pierce the thick, reinforced armor of the human tanks. The battle turned in favor of the humans as their tanks shredded through Kari forces, and the aliens, taken off guard, began to retreat. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. This wasn't how it had gone in all the other worlds they had conquered. But this was Earth, and humanity's resistance was far from finished. As the days turned into weeks, the Kari began to realize they had underestimated humanity's resilience. The tanks, though old and primitive by their standards, were now the centerpiece of Earth's last stand. They formed the backbone of the human counteroffensive. Lord Tsar, from his command ship in orbit, watched in disbelief as his empire crumbled. "Our forces are being overwhelmed. This should not be happening," he snarled. On the ground, Captain Harris led her division into the heart of enemy territory. The Kari had built a massive fortress on the outskirts of Moscow, and it was here that they made their final push to eliminate humanity once and for all. The tanks rolled forward, their engines roaring like lions. The Kari threw everything they had at them: plasma blast, energy weapons, and even their experimental war machines. But no matter what they threw, the tanks absorbed the punishment and kept rolling forward. One by one, the Kari soldiers fell, their shields shattered by the raw power of the human weapons. The tanks crushed their advanced war machines like toys beneath their treads. And as they neared the alien stronghold, the final blow was struck. A single tank, its cannon aimed directly at the heart of the Kari command center, fired the final shell. It tore through the thick walls of the fortress, obliterating the alien leadership in a burst of fire and smoke. When the Kari, an ancient and formidable alien race, arrived on Earth, they brought with them a galaxy-spanning empire and technology so advanced that it bent the laws of physics. Their ships glided effortlessly across the stars. Their weapons could tear entire cities asunder, and their warriors were known for their strength and brutality. They expected humanity to tremble at the sight of them, to beg for mercy, and to offer up the Earth as a prize in their vast galactic conquest. At first, the humans cowered, their technology dwarfed by the Kari's might. The aliens quickly made their demands: surrender Earth's resources, submit to their rule, or face obliteration. The world watched in terror as their warships darkened the skies, their ominous presence making it clear that resistance was futile. The Kari called human weaponry primitive and laughed at the idea that such a young race could stand against the power of their fleet. "You think your weapons can harm us?" Lord Tsar, the supreme commander of the Kari forces, sneered through his translator. "Your missiles are but toys. Your tanks, mere rusting relics. You are no match for us." The humans, though shaken, refused to surrender. Behind closed doors, the world's greatest military minds went to work. Nations set aside their differences. With a sense of unity born from the impending threat, engineers and scientists worked furiously to develop countermeasures. The human spirit, though tested, would not bow to tyranny. And so, the world watched as the humans took their stand. Not with lasers, plasma guns, or energy shields, but with what the Kari had so arrogantly dismissed: their tanks. The Kari had a fleet of ships capable of reducing entire cities to dust with a single pulse of energy, but they had underestimated the raw might of Earth's oldest war machines. While the world's leaders debated the use of their advanced technology, the generals made a decision to use what had worked in the past: brute force. The Kari had underestimated the human will to fight, and now they were about to pay for it. The tanks, massive behemoths of steel and fire, rolled out into the battle zones. They were old, yes. Some of them had seen service during Earth's past wars, but they were still armed with high-caliber cannons, thick armor, and an indomitable spirit. These were not just machines of war. They were symbols of humanity's refusal to give up. The first major clash occurred in the ruined streets of a European city, where Kari landing forces had set up a base. The Kari had deployed their shock troops, genetically enhanced warriors with personal force fields and energy weapons. They marched into the city with the confidence of conquerors, expecting human forces to scatter in fear. But the humans had prepared for this. A fleet of heavy tanks emerged from the smoke and debris, rolling out with massive treads that shook the ground beneath them. The first shot fired from a human tank struck a Kari energy shield, the impact causing a ripple in the air. The Kari soldiers, initially laughing at the audacity of the attack, were soon silenced as the next salvo from the tanks punched through their shields and into their armored exoskeletons. "Impossible!" cried one Kari commander as he watched his soldiers fall. The weapons they thought would be nothing more than toys tore through their ranks. The tank's shells, packed with explosive warheads and advanced targeting systems, chewed through the alien armor with terrifying precision. Despite their technological superiority, the Kari were not prepared for the sheer volume of fire and the human instinct to fight for survival. Every Kari warrior they sent against the tanks was either annihilated by a direct hit or shredded by the sheer force of machine gun fire. The once proud alien soldiers fell in droves, their force fields failing under the relentless barrage of shells and projectiles. Lord Tsar watched in disbelief from his command ship as his forces crumbled. "Retreat!" he ordered, his voice wavering for the first time since arriving on Earth. "Fall back. The tanks are too powerful." But it was too late. The human tanks, their crews determined and resolute, pushed forward without hesitation. The streets were filled with the sounds of victory, the roar of the tanks, the screams of the dying Kari, and the cries of triumph from the soldiers inside. As the last of the Kari retreated into the sky, the humans knew they had done the impossible. The tanks, those primitive relics of a bygone era, had crushed an empire. The once untouchable Kari were driven off, their pride shattered and their power broken. The Kari fleet, stunned by the unexpected onslaught, began to withdraw, knowing that Earth's tanks, those primitive machines, had torn through their forces with ruthless efficiency. In the aftermath, the Kari found themselves without a king to lead them, their military in disarray, and their empire thrown into chaos. The humans had proven something undeniable: that the will to fight, the relentless determination to defend what is theirs, was more powerful than any weapon, no matter how advanced. The Kari may have had superior technology, but they were no match for the human spirit. And as the dust settled, humanity stood tall, their tanks lined up in perfect formation, a symbol of their strength, their resolve, and the deadly force they could unleash when underestimated. The Kari never returned. The tanks remained, relics of a bygone age, but reminders to the universe that humanity, with its primitive weapons, had defeated an empire. The tanks, once seen as relics of an older age, were now revered as symbols of Earth's resilience. Statues of them were erected in every major city, memorializing the victory that saved the planet. Children learned about the battle in schools, and the stories of the brave soldiers who piloted the tanks were passed down for generations. And as humanity looked to the stars, they did so with the knowledge that they had defeated an empire, not with advanced technology, but with the strength, determination, and unity that defined them. The Kari may have thought human weaponry was primitive, but in the end, It was that very primitive force that shattered their empire and ensured humanity's place in the galaxy.
In the year 2084, humanity had finally made contact with beings from another star system. The aliens, known as the Vaari, were an ancient and powerful race, their civilization far more advanced than humanity's. At first, the encounter was peaceful, with humans eager to learn from their extraterrestrial visitors. However, peace didn't last long. The Vaari king, Zalcanner, had come to Earth with lofty demands: resources from Earth's core, access to the oceans, and the submission of human governance. He declared that Earth was under Vaari protection, and the people would have to obey their celestial overlords or face the consequences. It began as small skirmishes in space. A few bold attacks on satellites, followed by cryptic transmissions: bow or perish. The Vaari had warships that glided through space like shadows, their technology capable of warping time itself. They expected the humans to bend, to be intimidated. But humanity's response was not what the aliens anticipated. The United Nations assembled a coalition of the world's greatest minds and military leaders. Behind closed doors, the world's most brilliant engineers and scientists worked on a secret weapon, a countermeasure against the Vaari. Years of preparation led to the development of Project Titan, a machine that could disrupt the very fabric of space and time, leveling the playing field. When the Vaari demanded the Earth's surrender, the weapon was deployed. The result was nothing short of catastrophic. The Vaari warships that once dominated the skies fell from the heavens like burning meteors. Their technology, once invincible, began to malfunction as the ripples from the Titan field spread out, destabilizing their technology. But Zalcanner was not one to submit easily. He was a creature of pride and wrath, and when he realized the humans had fought back with a weapon that could rival his own, his fury knew no bounds. "Let them taste the flames of the stars themselves," he roared. "The humans will be crushed under the might of the Vaari." The king's forces descended upon Earth's cities in full force, intent on decimating humanity's resistance. But again, they underestimated the resilience of humans. They fought back fiercely, and with the Titan weapon, they had the upper hand. Each battle, though hard-fought, pushed the Vaari further back. Then came the turning point. Zalcanner himself appeared on Earth, convinced that his presence would inspire fear and end the war. He arrived in his towering ship, demanding the surrender of the human race. The message was clear: submit or face total annihilation. But the humans, rather than cowering, saw an opportunity. They realized that while the Vaari king was a symbol of their strength, he was also their greatest weakness. The resistance, led by an unlikely hero, an unassuming war strategist named Eva Thorne, began to rally the citizens in a final act of defiance. In a breathtaking act of unity, humans launched an unprecedented campaign to capture Zalcanner. They lured him into a trap, using a combination of their most advanced technology and guerrilla tactics. The king's ship was sabotaged, and soon, he was taken alive, bound and broken by the very people he had sought to enslave. The world watched in awe as Zalcanner was dragged through the streets of New York. His once imposing form, now humiliated and powerless, was paraded before a global audience. His alien face, once full of regal defiance, now showed a crack of fear. The humans had proven their strength, their resilience, and their refusal to bow to tyranny. The world's citizens flooded the streets, chanting for freedom. "No king, no master," echoed through every city. It wasn't just a victory over the Vaari, it was a declaration to all that humanity would not be subjugated. In the end, Zalcanner was put on trial by the people of Earth. The once mighty ruler, stripped of his title and his power, was sentenced to exile on a barren moon. His people, broken and leaderless, withdrew to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Humanity had won, but it was not a victory born of sheer strength alone. It was a victory of will, of unity, and of an unyielding determination to remain free. The streets of Earth would never forget the day when an alien king was dragged through them, humiliated, and the human spirit soared higher than any star. And so, the Earth learned a valuable lesson. No matter how mighty the oppressor, a people united in purpose could never be defeated.